Hi, it's me. Welcome to yet another Limbus Company New ID and Ego overview. This week's update brought us the Mystic Experience Intervallo, which brings with it two brand new triple-out IDs as well as a new Ego, all of which are a hybrid of Poise and Bleed. Corp Hong Lu is our free ID this time around that can be purchased from the event shop, while LCD OSIR team Ishmael must be pulled for, and she's also our 7th Blade Lineage ID to be added to the game. Shadow-vested Bladesinger is a new HE Ego for Meursault that is absurdly good. In fact, all of these new additions are ridiculously good, with Ishmael bearing a strong resemblance to her Jeong's office ID, and Hong Lu being a phenomenal Poise support unit for any boss fight. And they actually don't have 4 pages of passives for once. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Corp Hong Lu's kit revolves around the new status Trust, which functions similarly to Declared Duel in it can only be on one enemy, and each enemy can only have 1 unit of that effect. Trust has a base stack of 3 and reduces by 1 at the end of the turn if the unit who inflicted it doesn't attack that target, but it immediately expires if the unit who inflicts it is no longer on the field. Trust itself increases pride damage taken by 10% and reduces min and max speed by 2 each, making it very valuable in boss fights, especially for teams with strong pride skills. It also increases pride effect damage, which is mostly just Dark Flame, but it's a nice little thing to point out. Hong Lu can also always redirect skills of units inflicted with his Trust, though he's likely to be faster than them anyways. While his Trust is on an enemy, he also gains prisoner transport arrangements, which makes him gain 1 clash power against enemies with Trust, and also both inflicts 1 bleed and gains 1 poise when hitting them. This applies to every coin of the first 2 skills he uses per turn. This by itself makes him a very reliable unit in any single target boss fight, as he'll clash really high against them in addition to the support effects of Trust. His main passive is based on Pride Resonance, and it increases his damage against slower enemies by up to 10%, or 20% if the target has Trust. He also deals up to 30% more damage for every ally using a /Pride skill this turn. A passive that just increases his damage by up to 50% is pretty solid, but it also means that hitting 3 Pride Resonance is not going to make or break his playstyle, so he'll be solid regardless. And his support passive increases the first deployed ally's damage against targets that have bind by 10%. It's a 10% damage passive. Not useless, but usually also not going to matter too much in the long run. The easiest way to inflict Trust is through his defense skill. Throwing the Aura Bond is a 5-13 rolling /Pride clashable counter with a single unbreakable coin that can gain up to 2 clash power based on his poise and the target's bleed. It gains a lot of poise as well as poise count if it wins a clash. Since the coin is unbreakable, losing the clash still means he's going to inflict Trust on the target. This will help with his future clashing, and you want to do it anyways, so even losing your first clash means you'll have an easier time building up SP afterwards. If you don't have a skill 3, this is definitely always going to be his best opener in an encounter. Constricting Aura Bonds is a 2-11 rolling /Gluttony skill with 3 coins that can become up to a 3-18 based on his poise and the target's bleed and Trust. That is an insanely good roll range for a 3-coin skill 1, beating out the skill 1 of almost every other ID while also dealing great damage compared to a lot of them. It's also great for generating poise and even inflicts a solid amount of bleed count. A lot of IDs are held back by their skill 1, but this one genuinely isn't, and even though it's still his lowest damaging skill, it's really strong overall. It can also extend Trust duration. This is important for the effects of its other skills, which require the target to have 2 or more, and may end up consuming it to provide an additional effect. Avulsion Slash is a 4-16 rolling /Lust skill with 2 coins that can become up to a 5-21 based on his poise and the target's bleed and Trust. While it seems underwhelming compared to his skill 1, it actually deals more damage since by consuming 1 Trust on the target, the second coin can be reused. This reuse can give him 2 haste and also activates the target's bleed for some more damage. Said second coin also inflicts 1 Avulsion wound on crit, which is his last new status effect. It stacks up to 3 and reduces by 1 at turn end, inflicting 1 bind and 2 bleed next turn. It helps with consistency when it comes to speed-based effects, and a little bit of extra bleed isn't bad. I'd say that overall, this is Hong Lu's second best bleed ID, only being beaten out by Ring. Hunter's Scouring is a 4 to 16 rolling slash pride skill with 4 coins that can become up to a 5 to 25 based on his poise and the target's bleed and trust. If the target has trust, it also makes all the coins unbreakable, and the final coin inflicts 2 bleed count and 1 attack power down next turn. It deals a bit more damage if the target has Avulsion Wound, and the final coin even deals 50% more damage on crit. It also gains just as much poise as his counter, but without the Clash Win restriction. It's his other way to inflict trust, but it's a little inconsistent early on since it's on the first coin, so losing even a single clash step means you don't inflict it. But overall, this skill deals a lot of damage, inflicts a lot of bleed count, as well as other useful effects like Pride Fragility, and is just generally a fantastic skill in almost every situation. The only one of his ego that he perfectly fuels is Dimension Shredder, which isn't necessarily bad on this ID, it just doesn't really accomplish anything for him. You're most likely to use it for the fragile infliction if anything, though the haste is also nice. Since he is a Poise ID, the additional heal from Soda is more likely to be something you can take advantage of. It's not the best healing ego in the game, but it becomes pretty consistent later on into fights at least. But the ego he gains the most from is To Remain Oneself. It deals a ton of damage, the passive will increase his damage more and generate resources for free, and Higher Thunderer is an effect that is fantastic to have. The only downside is that it isn't available if you don't have it, but that won't be a problem for you if you want to borrow my Hong Lu from my company. LCD OSIR Team Ishmael is a more generally usable ID, and she's very similar to Jeong's office Ishmael. Before we get to that part though, she gains Bearing of a Salsu for every other Blade Lineage ID she's fielded with at the start of combat. Bearing of a Salsu stacks up to 3, it gives 1 offense level per stack, gives her 1 poise on hit up to 2 times per turn, and only decreases when Blade Lineage allies are killed. Honestly, you only need 1 of this for her to function at her full potential, so don't fret about needing to bring 3 other Blade Lineage IDs unless you really want to. Additionally, once 3 or more Blade Lineage IDs have died, she gains bonus poise as well as Swordplay of the Homeland, and even more poise if 5 or more have died. Swordplay of the Homeland is a huge boost to damage and power, so if you can control the deaths of 3 Blade Lineage allies, it'll increase her effectiveness by a lot. That said, I found that she really doesn't need this effect to be the strongest member of the team. She wants to have as much haste as possible, and her kit revolves around another unique status effect called Mook Workshop Yay Type 2 Blade Draw Thrust Force Dokkaebi Fire, which I will be shortening to Mook Workshop for the purpose of this guide because, Christ. It stacks up to 20 and you gain up to 10 per turn, and it can give up to 3 haste next turn based on the stack, increases slash-based skill damage by up to 10%, and makes her defense skills lose up to 5 clash power. You might be wondering why she wants to lose clash power with her defense skills, and the answer is that it is another ID that can claim their bones. On losing a clash with them, she will be unable to be staggered until that attack ends, and then will respond by using To Claim Their Bones, a 5 to 13 rolling slash pride skill with 2 coins that has a lot of damage conditionals, boosting its damage by up to 80% based on her poise, Mook Workshop, haste, and missing HP. It also inflicts Slash Fragility and Paralyze, 2 effects that are incredibly valuable in most teams, and it being an extra skill means she generates a lot of additional resources if you can use it repeatedly. It's nothing insane like Meursault's, but it is an attack skill which can lead into her other effect from this passive. After her attack skill ends, if she has 15 or more Mook Workshop, she will use Even the Balance Lucent Rippling Flame against the same target. It's a 5 to 17 rolling slash wrath skill with 4 coins that deals a ton of damage and will consume all her Mook Workshop at attack end. If the final coin crits while she has 5 or more haste, it will also be reused, meaning the final damage overall is insanely high, just like something like Kazan. It also requires a lot less brain power to use. This ID has very consistent poise and haste gain as long as you do some pride resonance from her passive. Expect this to be used every other turn once she gets going, since building up Mook Workshop is actually really easy as long as she has a good poise stack. Her main passive triggers off of Pride Resonance, and the main effect of it is to give her Dokkaebi Arms, another new status, and also heals a little bit of SP when using other Blade Lineage allies. Dokkaebi Arms reduces her damage taken by 15%, gives 1 haste next turn when she uses skill up to twice per turn, and gives 2 poise count before expiring at the end of the turn. You can very easily have this every single turn in a Poise setup, and it keeps her kit running pretty much the entire time. She also gains 1 Mook Workshop for every 3 Poise on herself at every skill end, up to 5 per skill. This combined with Dokkaebi Arms are why you need to keep this passive running, as it will both speed her up by a lot, as well as keep her moving in the late stages of fights. She also gains 1 Assist Defense if there are any allies at half HP or less. Assist Defense is really good, as it will let her potentially activate to claim their bones more often, but it's definitely the least important of her 3 resonance effects this time around. Her support passive increases the slash damage of the fastest ally by 10%, or 15% if they have haste. Just like Hong Lu, damage is nice, but not super important for you to consider for your team. Her defense skill is I'll Light the Path Forwards, a 5-13 rolling Pride clashable guard. It wraps all of her gimmicks into 1 skill, granting haste and poise, as well as assist defense, and gives Mook Workshop if she has haste. It's a nice little boost, but also she can never have haste on the first turn anyways, so using it is not strictly necessary in any encounter unless you want to claim some bones, since that can still activate her Big Bungus bonus skill. Her assist defense skill is Observing the Stones on the board, a 4-13 rolling gloom clashable guard that gains a little poise. It also heals 5 SP for the ally it redirected an attack from, which is a nice bit of team support that she didn't really need, but the skill itself is good to activate occasionally and becomes a lot more useful when at least 1 ally is on low HP. Rending Arts is a 3-11 rolling slash wrath skill with 2 coins that can become a 3-13 if she has enough poise. It also gains clash power based on her own haste and the target's bleed, just like all of her attack skills. The amount of haste you want to stick her at is 3 or more, since it's how all of her bonus effects activate. In this case, it's clash power, but also allows the second coin to be reused if she also has Dokkaebi Arms, making for a lot more damage overall. Oh, and all of her poise count is balanced around you having Dokkaebi Arms constantly, which is why it doesn't look like she gains enough, but trust me, she does gain enough. All of her skills gain Mook Workshop at attack end if she has haste, and this is in addition to what her passive can also give her. Acupuncture is a 3-15 rolling slash gloom skill with 3 coins that can become a 3-18 if she has enough poise, and gains clash power the same way as skill 1. And also like skill 1, the final coin can be reused under the same conditions. Unlike skill 1, that final coin can gain 2 haste on landing a crit. This skill deals quite a lot of damage overall and is pretty reliable. In general, her skills gain increasing amounts of Mook Workshop as the rank increases, but the main source will always still be her passive. And I'm not mentioning her bleed much because, unlike Hong Lu, it is very secondary to her overall capabilities. She's 100% a Poise ID this time around. Lucent Rippling Flame is a 5-17 rolling slash pride skill with 3 coins that can become up to a 7-25 based on her haste and poise, as well as the target's bleed. It also becomes fully unbreakable at 10 or more Mook Workshop. It's her only skill aside from her guard that inherently gives haste on use, and the small damage conditionals make it her best skill for damage that isn't one of her bonus skills. Speaking of her bonus skill, the reason this skill becomes unbreakable at 10 or more Mook Workshop is so that even if it does somehow lose a clash, you still get to activate her bonus skill 3 at the end of the attack. Both of her skill 3s gain additional Mook Workshop when landing a critical hit, and this skill inflicting slash fragility on what is likely to be your fastest ID is going to help the team quite a bit. I honestly find myself struggling to have anything to say about any of her skills since they're all just really solid without being too special, and it all coalesces into an ID that performs exceptionally well in any team that can do a good amount of pride resonance. Ishmael has several ego that she feels perfectly or really well, and mostly wants to use them all for their passives. Snag Harpoon is a good start, making her already really consistent clashing even more consistent once her SP is sufficiently built up, and she perfectly feels it. She also perfectly feels Tidal Elegy, which will passively increase her clash power and damage if there's only a single target. It also is just an absurdly good ego for dealing damage, and as long as you have it, it should probably be equipped if you run this ID. She also feels 3/4 of Blind Obsession, a lot faster than some of her other IDs can. Having a good way to quickly heal the SP of allies, especially at the start of a turn since this ID is so fast, is always really good. It also gives her synergy with other Poise units by giving them count, and the power up and damage it gives to allies should also not be understated. Lastly, we have Meursault's Shadow-Vested Bladesinger, a new HE ego. It's a 12 to 20 rolling slash pride ego with 2 coins that can gain up to 2 attack weight based on your highest resonance. It gives a large amount of poise count to allies in your deployment order, and heals the SP of Blade Lineage allies specifically. It also gives Drink to the Fallen next turn at the end of the attack. The first time it's used each encounter, it costs only 5 SP to use, and when used by Blade Lineage Meursault, it also costs 1 less of each of its resources, meaning it only costs 3 pride with him on first use. Every subsequent time it is used, it deals 100% more damage to the main target instead of being cheaper, or 200% if it's used by Blade Lineage Meursault. It also gains a bunch of clash power and damage from Meursault having high amounts of poise. It's pretty clear that this ego was designed with the intent that it's used with Blade Lineage Meursault. That being said, it's also best in slot for every Meursault ID that doesn't use Burn or Tremor, due to how easy it is to activate, as well as Drink to the Fallen, its new effect. Drink to the Fallen is gained in a stack of 4 and gives poise equal to the stack at turn start, doubled for Blade Lineage Meursault. It increases critical damage by up to 15%, and base skills that gain poise gain 1 clash power. It also provides a massive boost to HP if Meursault would be killed once per encounter, healing up to 100% of his max HP depending on the stack. This heal also recovers stagger, but it does not activate on a turn that an unrelenting effect on Meursault would activate, meaning that it will always be used at an opportune moment, giving Meursault a lot of extra survivability overall. He gains 1 Drink to the Fallen each time an ally is defeated via his passive, gaining 1 additional Drink to the Fallen if the killed ally is from Blade Lineage. Also at turn start, if he has Drink to the Fallen, he also gains Resentment, an effect that increases min and max speed by 2 each, and lets him heal by 10% of the damage dealt each time he lands a hit, up to 50% of his max HP per skill. You heard that right, it isn't per turn, it's per skill. And this is the big reason Meursault always wants this ego. This amount of healing is enough to keep him alive at all times as long as he has Drink to the Fallen active, and this ego is pretty cheap, so it's also really easy to keep it live. Also found in this unit's passive, Blade Lineage Meursault now inflicts 2 bleed on the first hit of his base skills, and it also is treated as a bleed ID in Mirror Dungeon. This effect is active even before the ego is used during an encounter, making it the first ego to have a passive effect from encounter start, even if it is only on a single ID. And let's cut to the chase. I'm not going to do an ID section for this ego because it is designed to be used by Blade Lineage Mentor Meursault. That doesn't stop it from boosting Meursault's survivability on every other ID too, but once we see that Drink to the Fallen also gives Blade Lineage Meursault a new effect called Resentful Scabbard, you'll understand pretty quickly. Resentful Scabbard activates all of Meursault's passive effects that require Blade Lineage allies to die in his In Memoriam passive, making it so that he has much better poise gain, as well as always applying Swordplay of the Homeland to him, which makes the ID almost twice as strong just from this effect alone. But it doesn't stop there. He also applies Swordplay of the Homeland, the true essence, to all other Blade Lineage IDs, which will massively increase their effectiveness by giving them final power as well as haste at the end of the turn, and everyone other than Ishmael also gets a pretty solid damage boost. Whenever his allies take damage, he also gains growing resentment by the amount of damage they took, which will encourage you to let allies get hit sometimes, though that will also happen naturally with fights with unbreakable coins. Growing resentment increases the final power of To Claim Their Bones by up to 6, and boosts the damage of both it and Yield My Flesh's final coins by up to 99.9%, making both much better skills, not that To Claim Their Bones really needed a buff. Yield My Flesh will now lose clash power based on his current poise, and it is not capped, meaning it's really easy to roll a 0 and guarantee that To Claim Their Bones will be used afterwards. It also makes him unkillable even if he loses that clash, making his minimum HP 10 so it doesn't even activate Unrelenting or the heal from Drink to the Fallen either. It then gives a bit of poise before claiming bones as well. All of these effects combine to make Blade Lineage Meursault as strong as any triple-aught ID released this season, even beating out a good chunk of them. He'll perform as well as Index Nurse Father Yi Sang, or at least he did during my practice with this ego, often out-damaging him. Granted, they help each other's damage a bit, But still, I never would have expected an Ego to make an ID stronger to this large of a degree. The corrosion is also something that exists, and has many of the same effects as the Awakening. It's a 13-5 rolling slash pride Ego with 4 unbreakable coins and 3 attack weight that can gain up to 16 clash power based on the user's poise. It can't gain attack weight, but instead applies 1 slash damage up and slash fragility, as well as 4 poise count, to all units during the before attack step, massively increasing the slash damage dealt during the turn for everyone slower than him. And every crit he lands increases the power of the final coin by 2, making it roll up to a 19. This Ego is absurdly strong for damage, especially against the main target. That said, the lack of reduced cost makes it still somewhat expensive, costing about as much as I would expect of an Ego that's this strong. It's actually a pretty solid option. You're just never going to want to use the corrosion before the Awakening, that way it's at its fullest potential when you do use it. All of these new additions function the best in a Poise team tailored around dealing slash damage. If you exclude Hong Lu, there's nothing stopping you from bringing 7 Blade Lineage units and calling it a day. Meursault boosts all of them so much that even the weaker half of those units will be pretty solid, and Ishmael picks up any slack that they end up taking really well. If you're more inclined to run only enough to get Ishmael's full buffs, Meursault, Yisang, and Faust, and maybe Don Quixote are the ones you'll want to bring. A lot of current Poise units are so good that they outperform the Blade Lineage alternatives even after Meursault gives them massive advantages though. The Index is primarily slash and deals a ton of damage, and are all individually very powerful for both damage and consistency. All of them also bring valuable Ego for boosting this team. Yisang can kill allies using Fell Bullet in order to give more drink to the fallen stacks, and Faust brings her Thoracalgia for even more healing and poise gain for the entire team, which is always appreciated. Ryoshu is always a solid addition to any Poise team, having her Butler ID, which is primarily slash, but more recently her House of Spiders ID became the best ID in the entire game. Her absurd damage even without killing allies is something any Poise team will really want to have, and her being mono slash is even better. If you bring her, you'll want to bring Middle Otis to kill on turn 1, then 2 other House of Spider IDs to kill. The awkwardness is the other ones she'd want to kill are from the Thumb, but those IDs aren't out yet, and the Index Spiders are ones you want to keep in the Poise team proper. Though if you lose Hong Lu, you can also kill Ring Hong Lu. Plus, Ryoshu has her own Thoracalgia, which helps with Poise generation and crit damage for the entire team. Pinky Sinclair is also really good for dealing high amounts of slash damage to multiple targets, and he benefits more than most from the team supplying him with Poise from their effects and Ego. If you're not inclined to use Hong Lu, even though you should be, you can also bring the duo of full stop IDs since they're independently incredibly good, and their additional attacks every turn will factor into your damage quite a lot. You could also bring Lord of Hung Yan out alongside both Heisho C IDs and Drifting Blade Ryoshu, with 2 of them being in the active party and the 3rd being in reserve to get a free skill 3 once Hong Lu swaps them out. Lastly, you can bring Fell Bullet Yisang if you're running a bunch of other Blade Lineage IDs, since he's capable of killing them to benefit both Meursault and Ishmael. You can also include Contemptor Ryoshu if you'd rather not sacrifice allies, since she is a pretty strong ID on her own, and still has access to a lot of tools to aid the Poise team, even despite not being a Poise ID herself. And that's about all I have to say about them. These IDs and Ego make playing a full Poise team feel a lot better. I was personally getting tired of just having full stops carrying the team, and the Index doesn't really interest me mechanically, but adding Ishmael, Meursault, and Hong Lu like this makes them all so much more powerful that it's worth it. I would still recommend waiting to shard both Ishmael and Meursault. Hong Lu is free while the event is running, so just be sure to buy him from the shop before it ends. You can borrow my IDs if you want a chance to use them before getting them yourself, just like always. Be sure to like and subscribe as it helps me out a lot, and let me know what you think of these IDs and Ego in the comments. Thank you for watching my video, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you again soon.